Can you just first tell me how, I guess, this all happened that you were able to go spend an evening and a night and speak with some of the individuals that are at Marcy? How did this come about?
Well, it was totally spontaneous, Tom. First and foremost, thanks for having me again. It was totally spontaneous. I'm sitting at the office one day and I'm thinking, what can I do to humanize this situation, to humanize the system, humanize the staff, uh, humanize the incarcerated individuals. And I said, well, let me go spend the night. Let me spend the night in Marcy and let's see what happens. Let's see how the incarcerated individuals respond. Let's see how staff respond. I just want to feel for myself what the incarcerated individual were going through and what staff were going through. So I showed up to the prison and called the commissioner and told him what I intended on doing, and he gave me courtesy.
And what did you hear?
Well, everything we heard the other three visits, that abuse is rampant. There's still officers there who, haven't been charged, but they're not on footage, but it doesn't mean that, they're not, they're not being abusive. So the whole thing is, so when we took the tour, we found out 34 officers, hit squad, from Mid-State to Marcy and Mohawk. We understand that there are officers still there, and this sparks fear in the incarcerated individuals. So I said to lessen the fear and humanize the situation, I'll spend the night.
When you're obviously someone that, as you're the first ever, formerly incarcerated state lawmaker, to be now in that like that immersed in this. And you told me how you felt when you saw the video, I guess, or heard the video and what happened. What was going through your mind as you were there, that night into the morning and through these conversations?
Well, I arrived about 7 p.m. And again, it was spontaneous. So the officers and the incarcerated individuals didn't know what's going to happen. But when I arrived, I stopped by, I said hi to a few dorms, and I asked to be taken to the most powerful dorm in the facility. They told me D1 was the most one, and I asked to go there, and I went to D1, and I asked not to have 3 or 4 officers surrounding us. I want the officer there that's on shift that they stay there, and I'm going to be safe. The incarcerated individuals didn't believe I was staying. They thought it was like a joke or something. So I started taking my clothes off. Then I said, hey, what's for dinner? And the guys started cooking and, we played chess and cards. We talked about legislation. But more importantly, we talked about safety. We talked about things to prevent this from happening again and the lingering fear in the facility because you still have officers there who commit awful acts.
How you alluded to this a little bit. How receptive were they to you and to what you had to say?
The incarcerated individuals,
Yeah.
well, so, very receptive, very trusting. So what I do, Tom, right, and what the governor got wrong, when the governor taught one time there after Robert Brooks' murder, she had commissioners and officers behind her. So no way in the world an incarcerated individual was going to open up to her with that behind them. And so they're fearful. And me being the first formerly incarcerated and excusing officers, uh, they trust. So when I get there, I ask the officers to please excuse us, and they'll leave out the dorms or cell block. And I'm there and just by myself talking to 50, 60 incarcerated individuals. And they open up about what's happening. And it's happening in every dorm. So, I don't listen to just one dorm or one block. I go and get information from every block and every dorm, and it all coincide, that, certain officers have a nasty disposition about authority and utilizing it.
What did they say about Robert and what did they say about what happened to him?
So it's still a mystery, but when we toured Mohawk, Assemblymember Damar Meek and I, we went to both dorms that Robert Brooks resided in, and incarcerated individual said he was a stand-up person, nonviolent, wasn't confrontational. They didn't understand what happened leading up to the event or leading up to his transfer, but they knew he was being transferred. Uh, and segue to that time, I'm still bedazzled because I just can't find out what happened to the footage from Robert Brooks being transferred from Mohawk to Marcy. It's a 5 minute ride. When you exit and enter to a facility, you're being recorded. Where's the footage of Robert Brooks leaving Mohawk, being transferred to Marcy? That footage would show you everything. Man was non-confrontational, wasn't fighting. I heard he may have a word with an officer or two who was transferring him, and that may have sparked something. Robert Brooks did nothing. Show me the footage.
Yeah, what do you think happened? I guess why would that footage be telling to you?
Because it'll show you everything leading up to Robert Brooks' murder. We see the beginning when they had him in the right there at the foot of Marcy at the fence. I walk through that fence every day I go there. At the foot of Marcy, they show you handcuffed, shackled, and they cow tied them and carried them to the infirmary from that point on. But what the footage don't show you is coming in from Mohawk to Marcy. It was no confrontation. He wasn't bloody. He wasn't beaten.
Did any of the individuals say that maybe something had changed after that day in December, or whether that's their mindset or the demeanor of the corrections officers or anybody there? Did they feel like, I mean, someone died. I mean, someone was killed. Did they give you the impression that anything had changed after that, either from their own personal feelings or the way they were treated?
They don't believe anything changed. The fear factor still resides in the facility. I've witnessed it personally. And, the night I slept over, you know, the mood was jovial. Everybody was smiling. Uh, put on my pajamas and I'm hanging out in the day room with the guys playing cards and watching movies. They all got together and cooked. They had lasagna and pasta. They all there sharing, and the mood was great. And then the sergeant walked through the door. I won't name her, but she walked through the door and everybody's demeanor changed. I seen fear in the eyes. Tom, I had that fear before too. I had the fear in Cayuga and I had the fear in Mid-State where I was abused. So I seen the fear in the eyes when this particular sergeant walked through the door. And she said 3 words like, well, well, well. And it was very intimidating to them. And I said, well, Sergeant, hey, Assemblyman Gibbs, you ain't gonna greet me? She said, I don't have to greet you. So these things, those are intimidating factors that make these incarcerated individuals fearful, and they think retaliatory and they won't talk. I've been through it and I've experienced it.
What do you make now? Obviously, we've had days of session, and I've been able to go and talk to different people up there about this. What do you make of the argument that you see some, not all, not just Republicans, I've heard this from Democrats too, say there are, it's the bad apple doesn't spoil the whole bunch theory, that not all correctional officers are bad, and this is painting them all with a broad brush, and they shouldn't be painted with that broad brush. How do you respond to that when it comes to talking about some of these reforms and even closing a place like Marcy down?
Every prison I tour, with the exceptions of the 3 I've been in, Mid-State, Cayuga, and Elmira, every prison I toured, I always go in and exit with the message. Every officers are not bad, despite the situation. With the exceptions of 3 facilities that I visit, every other facility had complaints about abuse in them. But my message remained: every officer aren't bad, because they are not. But when you travel up north towards the Oneida hub, and you go to that particular 2 facilities, the abuse level rises tremendously. We have so many complaints outside of Robert Brooks. Just this morning, New York City, former New York City Council member Reuben Wills was on the news channel talking about his experience there when they found him guilty of, I guess, whatever bribery, but they found him cleared them later. But he spent time in Marcy, and his time in Marcy was abused 3 times. Former city council member. Um, it's so many things going on. Staff was abused there. So many things that's happening there. You cannot correct that facility. You have to shut it down. I know they did some good changes thus far. You brought in a good friend, Superintendent Ben Thorpe. I met Ben Thorpe from Sing Sing. They transferred him to Shogun Wunk, and now they moved him to Marcy. Ben Thorpe is an African American superintendent, conveniently moved to these facilities to put out fires. This fire you cannot put out.
So what are you going to tell your colleagues after this experience? What's your goal? What is that message now? Are you going to tell them stories from your overnight stay? What is it going to be?
They're going to hear the stories, you know. Tom, and this is personal, and I'll share with you. I'm introducing a bill to study the effects of abuse after incarcerated individuals are released. There's hundreds and hundreds of stories of people suffering from PTSD. And I think I'm one of them. A speaker texted me the other day, asked me if I'm okay, because since the visit in Robert Brooks, my demeanor and my whole spirit is different. And going in and out these facilities and hearing these stories, it reawakened my abuse situation mid-state. And I think I'm suffering from that as well. So I want to study that effect. And so we're currently working on a bill to, do just that. And we have a sitting assemblywoman, Miranda Hooks. She shared publicly in the caucus. Her son was incarcerated and abused as well. And he is suffering from this. Can't accept authority, can't work for anyone. My ex-girlfriend, her son, Joey, he's suffering from it. Can't stay with her, can't talk to her husband. It's a lot of things. And so, yeah, it's a bad effect going on.
How do you get more traction in the legislature? I know, was it 62 that signed the letter to close Marcy? I guess how do you get more traction for that? And then for some of the other legislation, I know Julia Salazar is continuing to propose new legislation, fight for some of the other that has not gotten enough support. I guess, how do you grow what the message that you're trying to send here?
Well, I'll be honest, Tom, my 63 on the list, the targeted. We understand that the members up north on this side of the map will have a difficult time signing that letter, including my colleague in Marcy, Utica. She signed the letter for closure, what that looks like in her county, what that looks like for her reelection, what that looks like for other members up there. It's political. I'm not a politician. I'm a people-tician. I care about people's lives. And so my list was targeted to the members who resonated with their constituencies and their constituents who understand that inside those walls and fence, bad things are happening. And we have to address it. I understand that these men and women committed crimes and they are now imprisoned. But that sentence don't call for abuse, intimidation, or fear.
How would, when the charges come out, how does that impact all of this for you? I guess how does it impact you also your mentality right now when eventually this happens?
Justice has been fleeting for us. And I don't get excited when they talk about it to see it. But I do know that the remedy for a bad situation, you have to eradicate it. You have to end it. You have to close Marcy. I mean, if the complaint's going to continue to come out and we continue to play politics, these people are suffering, people are afraid. And I encourage the other members and the other legislators, when you go tour these facilities, don't stop at the conference room where the continental breakfast is set up. Don't go to the honor dorm where it's arranged and incarcerated individuals will tell you how peachy and fuzzy it is there. Go beyond that. Talk to the incarcerated individual. It's safe. Tom, I slept there 12 hours. Slept there. I was in my pajamas. Came out whole. I bathed, brushed my teeth, ate breakfast and dinner with them, and then slept inside the dorms with an additional 49 incarcerated individuals in the worst dorm in Marcy. And I came out unscathed. And I'll be honest, I'll be frank with you. I felt safe with them.
How do you convince others that don't see the humanity in this to see what you see? Because you have a very unique perspective here.
Like convincing them to don't play politics, don't be political. I mean, these are people's livelihoods. They was born and raised for this. They went to school for this. They lived their whole lives to be this. I was blessed to win the seat. Again, I'm not a politician, I'm a peopletician. And I think humanity is more important than tweet points.
Eddie, we really appreciate your time. We'll keep an eye out. Let me know when that bill, when you've got it up there, and we'll make sure to take a look at it and get it out there, because I think it's obviously something that's not necessarily been touched in this realm. It's another layer right now, and I can see. And that I can feel it, honestly, when after this happened and speaking with formerly incarcerated individuals, you could feel some of that trauma, right? And you could hear it, and not just your voice, but the others as well. And I think that bill, that's to study that. I think it's something not everyone understands, right?
The angst is real, and I'm hearing stories from everyone who was abusing while in prison, and when they seen this footage, the angst, it just joked you. But also, I forgot to mention, Tom, I'm also introducing another bill too that will make it a felony if you turn off your camera and if you don't report abuse in these systems. It's not the enemies up for Marcy. I'm calling for closure. I'm still working on legislation to prevent this from happening in other facilities. But I'm uber focused on closing Marcy.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Eddie. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for having me.